Good morning, BookTube, YouTube. This is Johnny. It's been a couple of days since I made a video, and I decided to make a video because I don't want to go too long. Today it's 8:34 in the morning here. It's a Saturday. It is October the 29th, 2022, and I'm waking up. I got up at 7:45. My wife was leaving to go to church to make pig in the blankets to raise money for missions. And I've been sitting here writing in my paper diary. I'm on page 1021. I thought what I would do in this video is show you basically books I got at the Book Nook. As you all know, I volunteer at the local library used bookstore, the Book Nook. I have for a number of years. I've gotten a lot of books from there, from the Friends of the Library used book sales every year. I volunteer on Mondays from 10 to 1 and on Fridays 10 to 1, and when I go there, the first thing I do, I go in the back and see what has been donated, and I take what I want and I buy it. And so I get a lot of books out of there. And then around where I live here in Holland, Michigan, there's Action House thrift store, there is Bibles from Mexico thrift store, there's a local Goodwill thrift store, and then there is Northside Holland, there's a Salvation Army, there is a Humane Society thrift store to rescue dogs and cats. There is another Goodwill, and so and then sometimes my wife and I, we go south to Finnville Public Library, has a used book room in their library that we buy books from. And there's a place in Douglas, Humane Society, that sells used books in their store. So there's a lot of places to buy used books. And I buy some used books from Amazon, and so I'm always buying used books. I do buy some new books, but not that much. A new book I did buy, most of the books I buy new are Christian, and I bought this book just recently, Some Pastors and Teachers Reflecting a Biblical Vision of What Every Minister is Called to Be by Sinclair Ferguson. Now this was an expensive book. It cost me $35, which I was kind of reluctant to buy because I'm not going to be a gospel minister like I thought I was when I was younger. But I don't know, it looked interesting, and I like Sinclair Ferguson. I have all kinds of books by him. He is Sinclair B. Ferguson is Chancellor's Professor of Systematic Theology in Reformed Theological Seminary. That's where I went to train to be a minister at Reformed Theological Seminary in Jackson, Mississippi, and a teaching fellow at Lemire Ministries. And I've heard Sinclair Ferguson speak at theology conferences over the years. If you want to listen to Sinclair Ferguson, he's in YouTube, his lectures and sermons. And he's Scottish, so but he's interesting. So that's why I got it. I mean, I do get books once in a while on minister, but another new book I did get. I got this from what's it called? Book Depository. This is The Magnificent Rebels The First Romantics and the Invention of the South by Andrea Wulf. I have 2 other books by her. I read her book on the Invention of Nature, and I have another book of hers downstairs. But I've been reading this, The Magnificent Rebels, The First Romantics and the Invention of the Self. So I do get new books. Well, this is really, I don't know, I suppose this is considered a new book. It wasn't a markdown, but it cost me $28, which is a lot of money. But I really wanted it because I'm into romanticism. I like reading. I liked her other books, and so she's really worth reading if you're into that kind of subject matter. So now I'm going to show you the books I got at the Book Nook, the library used bookstore. Yesterday was a Friday, and I got these yesterday. I picked up the 5 o'clock Angel letters of Tennessee Williams to Maria St. Just, and there's a picture of Tennessee Williams. I have a very, not a large, I collect books. He was a playwright, as you all know, an American playwright. He wrote short stories. He wrote his own memoirs. There's biographies. In Library of America, there's a 2-volume edition of his plays. And this came into the Book Nook, and I was reading these last night before I went to bed, and Tennessee Williams, he's known for his plays, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, Sweet Bird of Youth, Night of the Iguana, Summer and Smoke, Orpheus Descending, Suddenly Last Summer. He was friends with Gord Vidal. As you all know, I collect Gord Vidal. I have a whole his novels and his memoirs, and I don't know. So I picked this up. It's cost me $2. You can't go wrong with $2. And then I picked up yesterday at the Book Nook Anne Bronte, The Tenant of Whitefield Hall. I collect on the writings of Anne Bronte and Charlotte Bronte. I got these 2 yesterday. This is Shirley by Charlotte Bronte, and this is Tenant of Wildfell Hall. Yeah, I have a large collection of their writings. And then I picked up last Monday some old paperbacks that they were going to throw away. And one I just finished reading is John Cheever, The World of Apples. These are stories. I've been reading this since I got it last Monday, and I'm almost finished with it. As you all know, John Cheever is one of my favorite writers. His short stories, his letters, his journals. He's an American writer, and so I got this. And then this one, this is Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I have all his writings, but I didn't have this one, An Evil Hour, a dreamlike tale of violent secrets and hidden longings that haunt a South American town. One of the key poetic statements of the century, a remarkable novel, Chicago Sun-Times. As we all know, he wrote 100 Years of Solitude, and so I got this, retrieved it from the garbage. They're going to throw it away because it's all beat up, but I grabbed it. And then I picked up Appointment as Samarra by John OHara. As you'll know, John OHara is one of my favorite writers. I have almost all of his writings downstairs. So I just picked this one up. I have it in hardback. I might even have a paperback, but I can't see throwing it. If I see one of my favorite writers, I just hate to see them in the garbage. So I grabbed it. And then I picked up at the Book Nook last Monday the Portable Dorothy Parker. This is complete with 2 volumes, short stories, 3 of poetry, plus play reviews, uncollected articles, later stories, book reviews, and afterword by W. Somerset Maugham. Introduction by Brendan Gill. Brendan Gill, he was for the New Yorker, but I have other collections of Dorothy Parker, but I didn't have this one. One of the wittiest and most quotable of 20th century authors, Dorothy Parker earned a wide-ranging and appreciative following among critics and public alike. Dorothy Parker, perhaps best known for The Constant Reader, her book reviews that appeared in the New Yorker. These are also printed here in their entirety, along with numerous play reviews, critical articles on James Thurber, George Eliot, Shirley Jackson, Jack Kerouac, and others. Brendan Gill introduction offers a brief biography of Dorothy Parker. I don't know, she's somebody I've always wanted to read, and I collect her. This is an Europia. You know I collect Europia editions, and this is The Sister's Story by, I can't pronounce her name. She's an Italian. This is translated out of Italian. And The Sister's Story, and I collect these. And Europia editions. See, Europia. I have a whole slew of these. Then I found the Book Nook, The Uncollected Stories of William Faulkner, edited by Joseph Botner. He wrote a biography on William Faulkner. He also edited his letters, and this is he edited this Uncollected Stories of William Faulkner. And then I picked this up at the Book Nook, Nature's Ghost, Confronting the Extinction of the Age, from the Age of Jefferson to the Age of Ecology, by Mark V. Burroughs, Jr. I collect books on ecology, nature. It just looked really interesting. It cost me $4, I think, for this book. It was a library withdrawal, so I grabbed it. And then I got this at the Book Nook, The Gates of Europe, A History of Ukraine by, can't pronounce the name. As we all know, Ukraine's in history because Russia has invaded Ukraine and is attacking it. And there's a reign of terror going on right now. I refuse to give any comments about Ukraine and Russia. I can't pronounce, this is Dangerous Liaisons? I can't pronounce it. Anyway, I can't pronounce the name, but this is a penguin. I like penguins, and this was made into a movie a number of years ago. But this is translated by Helen Constein. Anyway, I picked this up. This cost me $1.50. Then I picked this one up too. This is Oxford World Classics. I think this is on the Arthurian, the King Arthur's kind of the Arthurian sagas or something. I can't pronounce it either, but I picked this up at the Book Nook for $1.50. It says vast in its scope, dense in imagery, Parzival ranks alongside Dante's Divine Comedy as one of the foremost narrative works to emerge from medieval Europe. Written in the first decade of the 13th century, Preface is the greatest of the medieval Grail romances. It tells of Preface's growth from a youthful folly to knighthood at the court of King Arthur in his quest for the Holy Grail. Anyway, it just looked interesting. This is Goethe's Faust. I already have this, another edition, but this is a translation by Walter Kaufmann. He wrote a book on Nietzsche, and he wrote a book on existentialism I have. Yeah, he was a translated editor of the Portable Nietzsche. He wrote on Nietzsche. Anyway, this original German, a new translation and introduction by Walter Kaufmann. So I picked that up. Then yesterday I picked up the wonderful story of Henry Sugar and 6 more by Ron Dahl. As you know, I collect his writings. I already had this in paperback, but this is a hardback edition. And then I picked up at the Book Nook yesterday. This is by Frank Harris. This was first published in 1920. I have his memoirs and a biography of him. He was a writer. He was involved in theater. But these are his portraits of H.G. Wells, Upton Sinclair, Winston Churchill, Thomas Huxley, Augustus John, Walt Whitman, and others. This was $4. I was kind of reluctant to buy it, but since I had a biography of Frank Harris and I had his memoirs, I just bought it just to add it to my Frank Harris collection. These books I got at Action House Thrift Store the other day. The End of Victory Culture, Cold War America, and the Disillusioning of a Generation by Tom Engelhardt. As you know, if I see the word Cold War, the Cold War America, I buy those books. The End of the Victory Culture is a compelling account of how America's premier story of inevitable triumph against at all odds underwent a dizzying decomposition from Hiroshima to Vietnam, as Tom Engelhardt reconstructs a half-century of the crumbling borderlands of American consciousness. He also offers a striking portrait of a post-Vietnam nation living in afterlife amid the ruins of its national narrative. This was first published in 1995. This is by Paul Gauguin, his Noah, the Tahitian Journal. As you know, he was a French painter and he lived in Tahiti and he painted the life of Tahiti, which is one of my favorite painters were paintings, and this is his journals. It's only, it has little drawings in there. I just bought this to add to my Paul Gauguin collection. This is Rilke, Letters to a Young Poet, which is very famous. I had a lot of his poetry, and for some reason, last summer I dehauled it, but I didn't have this, so this is very famous. This is translated, I think, out of the French. Rainer Maria Rilke, Letters to a Young Poet. And then I found an old Paris Review, summer 2017. I collect Paris Reviews. I have all kinds of them, different years, and I don't know, I just collect them, and I found this one. Yeah, in this Paris Review, there is an interview with Ali Smith. You know, she wrote those novels on the Four Seasons. I have her one on autumn, I think, downstairs. Anyway, I just like looking at these and reading the poetry and the interviews, and there's some short stories in here. There's a short story by Anne Carson, who I like reading. So that's what I got, thrift store, but most of these came from the Book Nook. I thought about, I got stuff in the mail last week. I don't think I have anything else coming in the mail. I thought about going to thrift stores today, but today is Saturday. What is Saturday? Saturday is college football. Today we watch a big rivalry, Michigan and Michigan State. So that's it. That's the books. And yeah, like I said, I been reading John Cheever, The World of Apples. I really enjoyed these short stories, and I have been reading The Magnificent Rebels, The First Romantics, and The Invention of Self. Yeah, I've read almost 101 pages out of this. In the mornings, I've been reading, like I said, the Reformation commentary on 2 Corinthians, reading Dionysius the Carthusian on the Psalms. Yesterday I read on Psalm 68. I took that even to me to the Book Nook yesterday, Dionysius the Carthusian on Psalm 68, because I wanted to, I'm kind of a little bit out of it, a little depressed, feeling a little kind of, I don't know, you get kind of sick of the same old thing all the time, and I don't look forward to winter coming, and so when I really feel kind of bummed, I read mystical theology. That's what I do. So I might be reading St. John of the Cross or the Carthusians, and so I read on Psalm 68 yesterday, and been reading it over and over again, meditating on it, the verses. Like verse 21, but God shall wound the head of his enemies, and the hairy scalp of such a one as goeth still in his trespasses. The Lord said, I will bring again from Bashan, I will bring my people again from the depths of the sea. Anyway, I was just reading that, Psalm 68. And in the Sinclair Ferguson book, these are kind of like pastor teachers, 3 Johns, John Calvin, that's the first chapter, pastor teacher, John Owen, pastor teacher, and John Murray, pastor teacher of pastors. So, and then he has a whole section on John Calvin, pastor and teacher, and then he goes into John Owen, and then he goes to pastor and teaching, how does the Bible look at itself, just different articles. I don't know, I like reading this kind of stuff. It's not really heavy, it's not kind of light, but I like Sinclair Ferguson. The last book I got, Sinclair Ferguson, it's over here. It's this book, The Whole Christ, Legalism, Antinomianism, and the Gospel Assurance, Why the Moral Controversy Still Matters by Sinclair Ferguson. I picked this up at Bibles from Mexico like last month. When I was in Bible college, I did a paper on the Merrill Men. I have the works of Thomas Boston, Ralph Erskine, and Ebenezer Erskine downstairs, Scottish divines from the 18th century. So I'm just rambling again. I'm rambling here. So I hope you had a good reading week. I hope you have a good weekend. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for subscribing. Do pray you're all doing well. And yeah, not much else going on. Like I'm writing in my diary. My wife is back from Denver. She's recovering. She still has a cold. She stays busy. Writing in my diary, reading my books, volunteering at the Book Nook, watching the birds, raking up leaves. Today I'll watch college football. And the Lord is good. He's coming back. And yeah, so I'll sign off, and until next time, bye.